Hello, 8th grade algebra students. This is Mr. Roush with your first lesson, Module 6.1, Linear Functions. Our essential question is how can you use graphs and equation to identify linear functions? So you should know that linear means a straight line. So if you look at the first question, you get a job planning birthday parties. You are paid a flat fee of $80 and then $15 for each hour you work. The function defined by f of x equals 15x plus 80 represents your earnings in dollars when you work x hours. Assume you get paid for fractions of hours, so you can have a continuous line. So if you work 0 hours, you're still paid that flat fee of $80. Now if you work 1 hour, you're going to plug a 1 in for your x, so 15 times 1 is 15 plus 80, so you're going to get $95. Then you should get 110, 125, and $140. So when you graph this is like an XY. There's your X, there's your Y. So you have 0, 80. Then you have 1, 95. 2, 110. 3, 125, and then 4, 140. So it says you get paid for fractions of an hours, so you can actually connect your dots there. Now it says, how do you know that this is a function? You can say every x has exactly one y, so every input has exactly one output, or you can also say, if it's graphed, you could say the vertical line test. If you pass a vertical line from left to right, it only hits the line one time. So every x has one y. You could say vertical line test and explain what that is. Now it says identify the domain and range. Remember, your domain are your x values. You can never work negative hours, but you can work 0. So domain would be 0 less than or equal to x. So it's everything greater than or equal to 0. So you can work 0 hours, you can work 1 hour, 2, you can work all the way up till as many hours. Now your range. If you look at that graph, you can never go lower than 80. So it's going to be 80 less than or equal to y. So yeah, you can go anything greater than 80, or it could also be 80. So your domain is all real numbers greater than or equal to 80. Your domain are all real numbers greater than or equal to 0. So look at a pattern. They're going up by 15 each time. So your slope is 15. All right, so now we have identifying linear functions. A linear function is a function whose graph forms a line that is not vertical. So if you go from left to right, this is not a vertical line. The line or the graph at the right is a graph of a linear function. Both the domain and range of the functions are sets of all real numbers. So if you look at the arrows on both ends, it goes on forever, to the right, to the left, up, and down. If a function is linear, then it can be represented by a linear equation. A linear equation is any equation that can be written in the standard form below. So ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are real numbers, and a and b are both not 0. So one of them could be 0, one cannot be 0. So a is the coefficient of x, b is the coefficient of y, and c is just a constant. So notice that when a linear equation is written in standard form, the following are true. X and y both have exponents of 1. if it has an exponent that is not 1, it is not linear. Like if your x is squared or to the third power. X and y are not multiplied together. They have to be added or subtracted. They can't be multiplied or divided. And x and y do not appear in denominators, exponents, or radicands. Denominator is like, down here. Exponent can't be like 5 to the x power. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Or radicands would be like x root 9. So it cannot be any of those. So that's the third one. Now it says, tell whether each equation is linear. If so, graph the function represented by the equation. So your a is the coefficient of x, which is negative 12. B is your coefficient of y, which there is none, so it's a 1. And then c is your constant, which is negative 4. So yes, this is a function. And the way I would graph this is I would turn this into y equals mx plus b. So I would add 12x to both sides, and you would get y equals negative 4 plus 12x, or I would even say y equals 12x minus 4. And then what you're going to have to do is make a table, plot the points. So they use negative 2, 0, 2, and 4. So you plug those into the equation right here. So negative 2 times 12 is negative 24, minus 4 is negative 28. So you have negative 2, negative 28. Then we have 0. When you plug in a 0, you're still left with negative 4, which is your y-intercept. Whenever your x is 0, your y is your y-intercept. So that's right there. So you guys can make your table. Now for part B, this is not a linear function because that 2 up there, it cannot be squared. So remember, that can't be squared, has to only have an exponent of 1. So exponent on this x is not 1, so it's not linear. This would actually end up looking like a parabola. Now for part C, equation, we have x times y. They cannot be multiplied together, so it's not linear. They can be added or they can be subtracted. Okay, so if you look up here, use the bulleted list above, example 1, to write at least 2 more equations that are not linear. So you could say xy plus 7 equals 42. It is not, they're multiplied together. You could also say like x squared plus y equals 2. That cannot be linear because of the squared. All right, so also, why do you think the graph of a linear function has to be a non-vertical line? When you have a vertical line, like if you say have a graph like this and you just have a vertical line like that, your slope is undefined. So it's undefined. So we'll explain a little bit more. So now if you look at number 5 and 6 for the your turn, it says tell whether each equation is linear. So if you look at number 5, yes, that is linear. So what you can do is make an XY chart and plug in a number for X, and then you can get your Y. Number 6, if you notice, the X is in the denominator, so not linear. So that one doesn't work. But for number 5, you can basically put it in the y equals mx plus b. If you want to, we can add 3 to both sides. And then you would get y equals 2x plus 3, where 3 is your y-intercept, and then your slope is going to go up 2 over 1. So you should remember how to graph. Remember, this is your y-intercept is your 3, and then 2 is your slope. All right, so now we have horizontal and vertical lines. So, as stated earlier in this lesson, a linear equation is in standard form if it is in the form ax plus bx equals c, where a, b, and c are real numbers, and a and b are both not 0. So they both can't be 0. But that doesn't mean that one of them cannot. So if you have y equals 8, so if you have a y equals 8, you can write it in the equation 0x plus 1y equals 8. Or no matter what number you put in for x, so if you go to the right, you go to the left on here, it doesn't matter which way you go, your y is always going to be 8. So if you have a y equals, it's a horizontal line. So if you have a y equals, it's a horizontal line. Now, if you look on the other one, if you have an x equals, it's a vertical line. Which means, for example, if you have x equals -1, your y is going to be 0. So your up and down, your x will always be -1, but so if you have like -1, 0, -1, 4, -1, -4. So it will just always be a vertical line. So x is a vertical line, y is a horizontal line. So if you look here, you have y equals 2x. So is this going to be a vertical, horizontal, or neither? So your y coefficient is 1, your x coefficient is 2. So it's going to be neither. Now if you have y equals -4, if you look here, a y is going to be a horizontal line. So if y equals -4, it's going to be a horizontal line on -4. Now the next one, you have 3y equals -4. If you notice, there's not an x for number 10. So you're going to have to divide by 3, divide by 3. So you get y equals -4/3. Remember, the y equals is a horizontal line. This is a horizontal line on -4/3, which is like 1.3. So it'd be like a horizontal line somewhere around here. Now, if you look, x minus 3 equals 0. There is not a y there, so you can assume your y is 0. So if you solve for x, it's going to be -3, -3. X equals -3, which is going to be a vertical line on -3. So you should have in your notes, if it is a y equals, it's a horizontal line. If it's x equals, it's a vertical line. So that's all we have for today. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you. Have a great day.